Hello and welcome to our live conversation cafe with Everyday English. My name's Marion.
Hi, and I'm Bianca. Nice to see you this morning, Marion.
Nice to see you, Bianca. How has your week been?
I've actually had not a bad week. It's been okay. I feel positive because we're 3 weeks into lockdown.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I've been face mask, hands, space. So that's quite good. And I'm hopeful that maybe something will change after our last week or not. But it's been a nice week. It's been a bit colder, but
Certainly has.
I love the cold. I'm a
Yeah,
bit weird, yeah. So I can't. Maybe it's because I'm only 5'1". You can't tell that at the moment, but I'm very small,
I
and
confirm that though.
and I have this like fear, a bit irrational, that in the rain I might shrink. Yeah,
Okay.
like everything else, it shrinks, and I just think autumn is always full of rain.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it does, as you say, it gets that bit colder. I've been very lucky this week, and I've been catching the bus a lot.
Oh, have you?
Yes, and
Is your
standing.
car still broken?
No, my car's all better now. So
Oh,
great news for this week. But last
right.
week I was catching the bus, and bus stops are especially cold. I think bus stops are a bit colder than everywhere else, actually.
Yeah, you need like a heater, don't you?
Yes, definitely. Like they have in sort of restaurant gardens and pub gardens. Maybe just one of those nice little heaters just to keep us warm while we wait for our bus. What now? So, hello.
So, hello,
Hello.
what's cracking? Life is cracking. That is
Yes.
actually what's cracking this morning. So, thank you
Yeah.
for that. Good morning. I like that kind of street talk. So, those people who don't understand what that means, yo yo would be like another way of saying hello. What's cracking? How are you? Yeah, what's going on in your life? How are you doing? So, I
Yeah.
quite like that street talk. And because
Exactly.
I do a lot of youth work, I recognise your lingo, flying fish. Good morning to you.
Good name. Yes, good name.
Yeah. I often think that, I don't know whether you do, but like when you set up your Facebook or your social media accounts, what do you call yourself? And maybe it's because I'm a little bit older, I do like boring names. Bianca. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yes.
really, where Steve, he does Twitch and he's doing all this game and he's Steve the Outlaw. And I think, oh, that's pretty cool. And his whole Twitch is like being in a tavern. And I think, yeah, mine's just like Bianca.
No, it's true. I have adult students and teenage students, and my teenager students, if we're playing a great game like Kahoot, or where you have to actually give yourself a little username to be involved, my teenagers have some really good names. Yeah, it's quite funny because I have to say all their names when I'm telling them the results of the Kahoot as well. So I sound a little bit bonkers, but they are good names.
Yeah, I like that. So this week it's been really cool because been a bit busy. We're preparing for some of our Christmas work, which is exciting. So at Community Courtyard, we are doing a Christmas story. So we're creating our own Christmas story. So in the UK, there are some famous Christmas stories that people traditionally tell on Christmas Eve, maybe. So in Europe, there is a tradition of giving books on Christmas Eve. And the idea behind that is that as a family, then you're relaxing, you're reading, you're calm, and it's nice, it's good family time. Now, we don't do that as much in the UK, but we do have like a famous night before Christmas, and not everything was quiet in the house, nothing was stirring, not even a mouse. And then you hear about this man who came down the chimney, who laughed with his big belly, wobbled like a bowl full of jelly. And so we're getting people involved to write their own Christmas stories. So that's been really lovely.
Oh, wow, that sounds fantastic.
I like
Have you
a good
had any
story.
people that have come up with stories yet?
Yeah, and it's about how you make it into like it's like a jigsaw, isn't it? How do you create everybody's space? Now, Flying Fish has written to us again. I remember when I had an English teacher once, and he almost made the class cry.
Oh, that's not good.
That's not good.
No, I hope. What was it? Did he cry? Did you cry because you were laughing so much? He was very funny, or she was very funny, or cry because the teacher made you sad? We need to know.
Yeah, why did your teacher make you cry? Oh, but you respected his style. Okay. Well, here at Everyday English, we're going to try not to make you cry.
Yeah, that's a big aim.
You might cry with laughter, or but we believe that the best way to learn English is when you're feeling happy, because when you feel happy, you are more prepared to make mistakes. Yeah, and the only way you get better at English is making mistakes. Now, I know this for two reasons. I'm learning Spanish, and I've tried to do this before. And the class that I'm in at the moment, I feel more successful because I can be brave, because we laugh at our mistakes. So if I pronounce a word wrong, we're all like, are you sure? Is that not French? Or Bianca, are you sure you're speaking Spanish? So there are lots of different ways. And in different places around the world, there are different techniques. And in the UK, we are quite relaxed. And if I think about other words that are connected to relaxed, laid back, informal.
Yeah, we're also aware that everybody has different learning styles, and we like to accommodate that. So I think sometimes if you start in a class and you find that it's not your learning style, it's not dealing with your learning style, then certainly in the UK, that's something you can discuss with your teacher. And they can either help you to develop a different learning style if that's what's needed, or perhaps sort of adjust their methods, because really learning is for all.
Absolutely. I think of teachers a bit like hairdressers. Now, you can't tell today, because before you came on, I was saying to Mariam, having what I like to call not a bad hair day, but a lazy hair day, because I woke up and thought, never mind.
It's a Saturday morning hair day. I'm having the same.
It is
better that way.
So my hair is naturally curly. You can't tell because I've done nothing with it. But when I go to the hairdressers, some hairdressers understand. Some hairdressers think, oh, she's very small. Maybe I'll make her hair taller. Or I come out looking like a poodle, so it's very wide. You have to find the right hairdresser, and English teaching is exactly the same. You have to find the right person, because it's about trust. It's about finding out what works for you and that you're comfortable with. Especially, even though we don't pay for this class, most of the time people are paying to learn.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you have some rights as a consumer. You should be able to sort of get what you need from your service. But also,
Flying Fish is saying he just wanted to make the class cry. It was like his gimmick, and looking at it back at it now, it's pretty cool. I think in the UK, even if it was a gimmick, if I or Marion or anybody made a class cry, I think we would get sacked.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be honest with you, I think we would lose our job.
And I would not feel like a good teacher if I made my class cry. I would feel like I was doing something wrong.
But I'm glad you can look back and have a positive feeling about that.
Yeah. And Flying Fish, your English is looking very good. So
yeah, your English
paid attention in your class.
Well done, teacher from back then. I need to think about this technique. I'm not sure how I'm going to, because I think if I saw somebody a bit sad in my class, I'd want to go and give them a hug. Even in the virtual world, I'd be like, oh, would you like an elbow? Can I make you feel better?
Yeah, it's not our teaching style, really, is it, Bianca?
No, but I think that's because at Everyday English, we are trying really hard to be a community. So it's not just a space where you can ask questions about English, but maybe, for example, when we meet face to face sometimes in different communities across the UK, people have questions like, what happens to rubbish? So in Spain, for example, your rubbish goes to the end of your community. But in England, it goes outside your house. And if you put your rubbish outside your house before 6:30 p.m. the day before, it is actually breaking the law. And whilst most of us do this, because this is not a big law, sometimes people get really annoyed. So I have my rubbish collected on a Monday, and sometimes people start putting their rubbish out on a Wednesday. So the street looks disgusting. So people get really angry about rubbish.
Yes, they do. It's good. We like, I think one of the key words for Everyday English and Community Courtyard is accessibility, is being able to find the information, the knowledge, the help that you need, and feel that you are welcome to do so, and feel that there are opportunities for you to do so.
And I guess also, for whilst we do teach classes that have a set time structure. So for example, our UK BI A2 B1 is a 8-week, 12-week course. We also understand that lots of people can't learn in those time frames. So we have a flexible approach. Now this comment has made me laugh, so I'm going to put it up. Breaking the law is my favourite hobby. I don't know if it's my favourite hobby, but I do believe that everybody breaks the law, even if they don't think they are. So, for example, down my road, because there are lamp posts, yeah? So the lamp post is where the light is. You have to drive no faster than 30 miles an hour. And I imagine on the motorway, even though people are supposed to drive no faster than 70, because this is the speed limit, most people have gone faster than the speed limit. Therefore, most people have broken the law. Most people go to work and maybe they borrow a pencil when they're at work, and maybe it goes into their bag and they've taken it home, and maybe they forget to take it back. So we are always breaking little laws. This is not a problem. This is not something we should do every day. We should not set out to break some laws. However, I really like what you say, Flying Fish, because actually it's really important that we keep questioning the law.
Yeah.
Which actually links us into the thing that we were hoping we could talk about today.
Yeah,
about
we're going to talk
values.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So thank you for that. You didn't even know, but you've linked us into today's discussion. Well done. High five. Cha-ching.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Flying Fish. So let's have a quick look then at British values. This is a set of values and considerations that we hold to in the UK to make sure that life is equal and fair for all of our citizens. So it's a very, very important set of values. All schools, for example, adhere to these values. All industry adheres to these values, and the government adheres to these values. You certainly should. This is the point of these values, is to ensure fair treatment. And we do feel that that's very important in the UK. So, and we also feel that it's very important at both Everyday English and Community Courtyard. You know, this is something that's very basic to our own values and how we carry out our business.
Absolutely. Democracy is a bit like what we're talking about the laws. And democracy is something that's really interesting. And I don't know whether anybody who's listening or watching this back later has been watching what's been happening in America. So they're in a democratic discussion because everybody voted and most people voted.
My phone's going to stop ringing in a minute.
Okay. Most people voted for a man called Joe Biden, which meant that the President Trump, got less votes, which technically means that President Trump lost. Now, under usual circumstances, when we think about democracy, what happens is that President Trump says, I'm really sad to lose, but well done, Joe Biden. However, he's refusing to acknowledge that he's lost. So this is terrible news for democracy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they deal with this. Will he leave in January, or will he have squatters' rights? Squatters. Now that's the word that we use when someone lives in a house that doesn't belong to them. Yeah? So it's not when you're renting, you're allowed to be there. But when you're squatting, it means that you should have gone somewhere else. You're not wanted there anymore. And there's a chance that Donald Trump might be squatting in January.
Exactly. Yes, he doesn't at the moment look like he's going to accept the Democratic vote. And that really does call into question his own values.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Flying Fish just said, oh no, Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, we feel the same.
Yes. Yeah. So
okay, so that's really interesting what you've just said, Flying Fish. People are also saying that the only reason Trump won in the beginning was due to the Russians. Politics is really complicated, and sometimes when people feel disaffected, disconnected, like their voice has no power, then they sometimes vote for the outsider. And at the beginning, Trump was very much that person. He was anti-politics, wasn't he? He was everything but other people thought politics didn't represent.
Yes, so people who were anti-politics said, good, let's get a real person in. Let's get somebody who isn't just going to talk politics, who's going to talk about real life.
Absolutely. But what they didn't realise, or maybe they did, is that he was a white supremacist. He was a misogynist. Now, I'm using really long words now this morning, even long for me, who's a native English speaker. So, misogyny. Do we know what that means? Any guesses?
Oh, yes. Flying Fish, do you know?
Do you know what misogyny means?
We might give you a minute to look it up in the dictionary.
Yeah, have a quick flick.
Oh, let's put that on. Well done, Flying Fish.
Excellent. Treating women bad. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Donald Trump is a misogynist. Yeah, Twitch does have a delay. You're quite right. Yeah, so that's why we give a little bit of a pause every now and then. So he's a misogynist, he's a white supremacist. And so now we have a different problem because more people voted for Trump this time than they did before. So we've got a problem about how we teach people to be kind to everybody. Yeah, that's our job now. How can we be kind to everybody, even the people we don't like?
Well, exactly. And democracy is a wonderful thing. And it's something that we need to keep hold of. We cannot have countries ruled by a small group of people and nobody else have any power. I know it happens in some places in the world, but there are then too many unheard voices, too many people who are not considered important enough.
And the other thing to remember, okay, yeah, and sorry, Flying Fish has just reminded us that people have said that Joe Biden has had problems with his children and inappropriate relationship with young people. His son has had problems, absolutely. Touching children, that is what I'm led to believe is not true. So I'm led to believe that that's actually misinformation. However, Flying Fish, I have to agree with your last comment. They both suck.
Yes, yes. I think with all of these allegations, these accusations, as with anybody, and we're going to look at this a little bit later with our as we look at British values. Everybody has the right to defend themselves if they're accused of something, and there has to be evidence of wrongdoing, and so people cannot be judged simply on something that somebody says about them.
Yeah,
they must be given a legal process.
And we believe in the UK that you are innocent until proven guilty. And I'd also like to highlight that even though we mentioned Trump, in the UK, our democracy is very complicated because we have even though we have more than one and two political parties, we have what's called a two-party system, which means generally speaking, people either vote for the Conservatives or they vote for Labour, when actually we could suggest that politics is broken and we need to find a way that everybody can have a political voice.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we have a lot of other parties in the UK. We have the Green Party, which deals with environmental issues, that really ought to get more of a voice as well. And several other parties, the Liberal Democrats, who are somewhere in between.
I'd like, I don't know about you, but I would like to see parties move away from who's the most personality. So in America, we've got Trump, and everyone in the UK is like, oh, I hate Jeremy Corbyn, or I hate this one person, rather than thinking, what does the political party stand for? So I think we have to look at how we can make politics again without boring everybody.
Yes,
and that's part of the democracy. But in the UK, everybody can vote. Yeah, so if you're homeless, there are lots of places where centres will allow you to use their address so you can sign up to vote. The only people who can't vote, so there are some people who can't vote in the UK. Do you know who they are? Any ideas? Prisoners. So if you have been arrested, found guilty, then and younglings.
Younglings, I like that.
Yeah. So under 18s, you can't vote. And if you've committed a crime and you are in prison during your time of incarceration, you can't vote. But when you get out, you can. So having committed a crime doesn't mean that you can't vote forever, just the time that you're in prison. Is that right? Should prisoners be able to vote?
Yes, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because many people, unfortunately, commit a crime. And if they're in prison, then they are getting their due justice for having committed that crime. Should that then make them sort of invalid citizens? Should it make them people who can't have a say in how their country is run? Yeah, that's a good point, Lionfish. Yeah.
It probably does depend what the crime is. One of the difficulties as well, though, is resources, isn't it? Doing how would we resource things? And that again goes back to our problem of democracy. Democracy requires investment, so everybody knows how to vote, what to vote, and in a technology-led age, which was completely the wrong phrase, but I've got a Saturday morning brain full of butterflies. I'm surprised that we don't do more online voting.
Yes. I suppose. Yeah, exactly. It would. It's how we do so many things.
Would you trust the internet, Marion?
Pardon?
Would you trust the internet to do your voting? Because I'm part of political, or have been part of political parties where I have voted for people's positions
Online.
But I don't know whether, online. But I don't know whether I would vote. I don't know how comfortable I would feel. Do you mean because of hacking and things like that? Do you mean it's a really difficult thing? I'd like to say yes, but I'm not sure.
That's with it.
I mean, think about it for a Saturday. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know. The hacking industry is so huge, isn't it? And it is an industry that if huge corporations can be hacked and information stolen or perhaps changed, can we use the internet as an environment for decisions about an entire country's government yet? Have we got the technology in place to make sure it's secure?
Absolutely. So maybe democracy is a conversation we could have for hours. So those people who don't know me and Marion, we like a good political debate. We are often watching the news to see what's happening, and we definitely have an opinion on it. So when conversation cafes meet in the real world, we are often saying to people, so what is happening in China with the Muslims who are incarcerated? Oh, wow, there was a Bolivia, there was a new president. So, and it was a woman, and the previous year she was attacked. Oh, what's happening with Boris Johnson? Has he got COVID or hasn't he? We are always asking questions and seeing what people know, because politics happens whether you take part or not. So we choose to take part. And if you come to the UK, you are able to vote too. Yeah, so you are able to be part of our democratic processes.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's sort of to go on to our next British value, the rule of law, which we were discussing a little bit before, where every person in the UK has the right to be legally represented. It's a very, very important thing to have. There are countries in the world where this is not possible, where if you are from a particular demographic, you don't have legal support or legal help. So it's kind of it is a vital service. Everybody. So if you are somebody who is perhaps doesn't have much money, or somebody who having trouble with your boss, or somebody who is in a superior position to you, that should not stop you being able to get legal help and have a voice in a legal court.
Now, in the UK, legal aid means that you may be on a low income, but you still have the right to a solicitor. So things that you may not know. So if you were ever to be arrested in the UK, The correct answer to all questions is no comment. It's really important that you let somebody know that you're there. And if you are stopped on the street and you are searched, you must always make sure that you get the piece of paper that the police officer has to provide you, and you follow up why they were stopping and searching you. And nowadays, even though this is not a nice way of thinking about it, I would encourage everybody to record any interaction that they have for the purpose of justice, to make sure that all people are treated fairly, regardless of their age, race, culture, gender, sexuality, etc. Because sadly, the police are not separate to society. So we have racists in society, we have racists in the police. We have people who are transphobic in society, we have transphobes in the police. This does not mean that the police is transphobic or racist, but it does mean that people are not separate from the jobs that they do. And we should just be mindful of that. And it's better to be safe than sorry. A stitch in time saves 9.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the idea that you can find yourself in a position where you can't be helped is really quite scary. So doing all of those things put you in more of a position of independence and ability to defend yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the rule of law, we have lots of laws. Some of them are really clever. Some of them are really stupid because they've been there for hundreds and hundreds of years and never been updated. So if you've moved to the UK and you're worried about any of the laws, please give us a shout. Yeah, don't be somebody who gets a fine for putting their rubbish out on the wrong day. Yeah, if there's a question you have about your community, please be in touch. If we're not here and you can't message us, you can message us via email at learn@everydayenglish.org.uk. And you can also send us messages on social media. But if you've got a question, please do get in touch. Don't worry about it at home on your own.
No. And also, if you are working, we have a huge bank of employment law, things that are set in place for you to feel safe and secure in your workplace. There are a lot of things that are not allowed to happen in the workplace. So again, if you feel that you are having difficulty at work, again, talk to us, or perhaps have a look on gov.uk, which is a very useful site for things like employment law, citizens advice. There are a lot of ways to check that you are being treated fairly at work, and because there are a lot of laws in place, you should not feel unsafe or bullied or at risk in your workplace. There are a lot of health and safety laws, again, which are to keep you safe, to keep you from harm, and they exist for that purpose. And you should not find yourself in a position where you're put at risk.
Absolutely.
Flying Fish, I am enjoying your comment.
I am enjoying your comment.
Yes. So
I'm not sure how I'm going to reply to your comment, Flying Fish, because I'm going to message you back. So
yeah.
Please excuse me if I look, because I think some of the things maybe everyone likes to be treated in different ways, but I think that even if you are somebody who has a particular set of boundaries that are different to maybe other people's boundaries, they should always be done with mutual respect and consent. People bullying you without permission or being mean to you without permission is different. So everybody has things that they are comfortable with and not comfortable with. We all have our what we call personal boundaries. But within our jobs, within society, we have to agree, but we expect people to have one level of standard. Yeah, and so the standard would be, but you will not be treated differently or unfairly due to who you are. Yeah, so you will not be bullied, you will not be sacked, you will not be given less hours, you will not be given the rubbish jobs because you are gay, because you are black, because you are Jewish, because you are disabled. These things are unacceptable regardless of anybody's personal framework of acceptances. I hope that helps in what we're discussing in terms of the law. I think maybe what you're taking us down a different path, which may be an after lunchtime conversation.
Absolutely.
And I might need a bigger cup of tea for that one, but I'm happy to do that with you.
Yes, but just
whenever
perhaps.
I mentioned Acorn in the chat.
Yes, I saw that.
So Acorn is an organisation that helps people with any housing issues. So sometimes people who come to the UK, the housing that they are given is not always of the highest quality. Maybe the landlord is not very good at doing stuff. Maybe they try to increase your rent without permission, etc., etc. So it's really good to get independent advice who are able to represent you. Remember, in COVID times, you can't be evicted at the moment, but you should still be trying to pay your rent. Okay, so if you can't pay all of your rent, make sure you pay some of it rather than none of it.
And keep talking to your landlord. So even if you are having problems, make sure that you have an ongoing dialogue with your landlord.
But if you can't talk because your English isn't good enough, Acorn is the organisation for you. They will talk on your behalf. You have a crush on your landlord, Flying Fish. How cool.
Yes.
I don't think my landlord is that good looking. I've never met them. Maybe they are gorgeous. In an ideal world, I don't know whether I'd like to own my own house or not. Sometimes I think yes, and sometimes I don't think that anybody should. I flit, and flit means change. I change my opinion quite a lot. Have you ever had a landlord, Marion, who you've had a crush on?
Yes, I've had many landlords. Yes, some of them
Have you had a crush on any of them?
Pardon?
Have you had a crush on any of them?
Actually, no, I don't think I have ever had a crush on one of my landlords. No. I have liked some of them very much because, you know, there's no reason to assume that because somebody is in that business, they are not going to be a good person. I think there are a lot of good people who still rent out property. But yeah, I've certainly had some bad landlords. Yeah. I've had landlords who've made me feel uncomfortable, who perhaps have been too, sort of too friendly. They've wanted to sit in my room with the door closed, and that's not appropriate. That it's especially when I was younger. That you know they have, and of course there are landlords who just try and suddenly put the rent up, and try and force you into giving them more money. Landlords who won't give you your deposit back, even though there's nothing wrong with the property. You know, there are certainly things that can go wrong in a landlord-tenant relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I would quite like to earn enough money to be a landlord.
Yes. Yeah, show all the other landlords how it's done.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen at the moment.
No, I don't think it's on my list either at the moment. Let's look at another of our values: mutual respect and tolerance of others.
Tolerance is lacking a letter E, so we apologise for that. I may have cut it off.
Yes, it is. That's right. Yeah.
So it just says tolerant, which is a completely different word. So ignore that word because we're talking about tolerance.
Yes. Tolerance. What does tolerance mean? Does anybody know?
I guess for me, tolerance is where I chat to somebody, but I don't agree what they're saying, but I'm not rude to them. I find out why they're thinking that. And so I don't exclude them. So, for example, I may not understand why some people love pizza. I hate pizza, but I don't exclude all pizza lovers from my life. I still hang out with them. I still eat dinner with them. So I can tolerate them. Yeah. So it's something that you can do, even though maybe you don't like too much. Like exercise. I tolerate exercise.
Yeah, and the thing with tolerance, the thing with not ejecting somebody from your life, pushing them out of your life or your conversation. Oh, good one. Yes, flying fish, lovely. Able to withstand something or someone that causes uncomfortable feelings. Yeah. Yes, why not? So
That's a great definition.
yeah. And the idea behind if we can tolerate somebody who thinks differently from us and still talk to them and still converse and still spend time with them, then there's far more opportunity to exchange learning, exchange increased knowledge of perhaps why or how people think that way and perhaps how that thinking can be changed. Perhaps on occasion it's our thinking that needs changing. And if you don't tolerate it at all, if you simply say, no, I'm not accepting that, then there is no learning on either side.
No, absolutely. Flying Fish has just said that they're the smartest person in their class.
Yeah, well,
and I agree. They are pretty smart. And it's always nice for us, Flying Fish, to have smart people joining in. So if at any point, Flying Fish, you think to yourself, you know what, I want to join in, and you feel brave and bold, then we can always send you a link and you can join us, and we can see your face and hear your words.
Yes, exactly.
And that goes to...
We've got a little box waiting on this screen just for you, Flying Fish.
Anybody else who thinks that they would like to join in with us, then you are more than welcome. California.
Oh, Flying Fish is from California.
That's
Very
pretty cool.
That's nice.
When I think of California, I think of the OC. I think of sunshine, beaches, and I then think to myself, I probably need a new body to be fitting in with California.
Yeah, California.
Because the media tells us, doesn't it? But it's very glamorous and where
yes,
I think I fit into English town with the jumpers and the woolly hats.
Yeah, I think on TV, California only seems to have a population of very beautiful people, doesn't it?
Who, it doesn't matter what they eat, they never have any bad skin, they're always looking glamorous. I mean, this is not true, this is just television, but it's interesting how different people in the world have different feelings.
Yes. Oh, so Flying Fish, you wouldn't put yourself in that category, no.
We probably think that you're gorgeous, though.
I'm sure we would. Yes.
We would think that
your landlord is a very California, has a very California look, and that's why you have a crush.
Yeah.
But
maybe completely different from British landlords in our head.
Yeah, exactly. I have never, that is one of the reasons I've never had a crush on my landlord. I don't ever remember having a particularly beautiful landlord, I must admit.
Yeah.
But
I think also when we look at mutual respect and tolerance of others, it's also about the fact that we don't have to agree with each other, but we do have to think about what we do and how we do it. Yeah, so for example, in COVID times, we might feel that it might not affect us, but having mutual respect means that we wear a mask anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I see people without masks on, my tolerance and my belief for that democracy means that I don't go up and say, how dare you not wear a mask? What's wrong with you? I don't say this. I get on with my day. I stand a couple of meters further away from people with no masks. And I continue to wear a mask. And you're quite right, Flying Fish. Wearing a mask does make you look cool, and it saves lives. And
Yes.
in America, like in the UK, COVID is really, really high. And so we must do all that we can, not just to protect our own lives, but to protect our parents, our grandparents, and those people who may not ever meet. Yeah, it's really, really important. And so that's why I wear a mask, because my mutual respect for myself and other people.
This is the important thing, yes. Unless you have a medical reason not to wear a mask, then you are not showing respect for everybody around you if you don't wear one.
Now, here's a controversial question, Mariam, to ask for a Saturday morning.
Go on then.
If you can't wear a mask, should you go out?
Well, that's a really good question, isn't it? Because if you can't wear a mask, then you are by definition more likely to spread any COVID infection that you may have. So I do think you have to consider that. Everybody also has their own reasons why they must go out and about, don't they? So, for example, if you go to work, but you're not going to wear a mask, what is your employer going to say? Is your employer going to say, well, don't come to work? Or is your employer going to penalise you for not coming to work?
Yeah.
So there are these other factors to consider, aren't there?
Absolutely. For lots of young people that I work with, they're finding it really confusing, the messages in the UK anyway, because you can go to school, but then after school, you can't hang out with your friends. So you can hang out with them all day in a small classroom, but you can't go and play football together.
No, exactly.
In a big group. I know there are some people who have real big trauma with masks. So people who have suffered from really traumatic events, and my heart does go out to those people, but I'm still not sure. But if you don't wear a mask, whether you should be going out at this moment, because we're just about to enter winter. So you might think we're in winter, but we're actually in autumn. And as we get closer to winter, that means the flu's going to go up. The NHS will be under a lot of pressure anyway. And people think that the NHS is free, but it isn't free. We pay for it through our wages. So we get taxed and money goes to it. So we are all contributing to our healthcare. And I don't want doctors and nurses being so busy from the flu and other seasonal illnesses, but COVID on top of that, because the nurses and doctors haven't had a break this year. Do you mean they've had a terrible year?
They haven't had a quiet season, have they? They haven't had
the bank holidays off, haven't had the same holiday time. And so I just genuinely think having mutual respect for other people means, for me, so my mum's got COPD and she struggles with a mask, so she wears a face shield. But if she couldn't wear a face shield, then she shouldn't go out, and I wouldn't take her out.
Yeah. No, I was going to mention the face shields because I'm not sure everybody knows that this is an option, which does not involve your mouth and nose being closely covered, which is what a lot of people have.
But if you have a face shield, you should make sure it's further down. So having a face shield that's just here isn't really helpful because it's just not. So face shields need to be a tiny bit longer.
Yeah.
And I think safety.
So I think this is a really good example of showing mutual respect. Obviously, there are other areas in which mutual respect is very important in this country, and I'm actually really proud of this. And it upsets me if I don't see this happening. But the ability for anybody to worship their own faith or have no faith, to decide on their gender and the gender that they're attracted to have to not be judged on their origins, where they come from, what color they are, is really, really important to me. I don't see that any of those differences should be a cause for lack of respect.
Absolutely. And one of the other things when you was reading that list that made me think about Marion was around the fact that in the UK we have the right to choose and make choices about our body, and that includes abortion. So
yes,
and that is a really important right, but not all women have. We know in Poland, but women lost that right. So it feels really important that we can actually do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, because we are really getting to the end of our time here, the final British value that we uphold is individual liberty, which is probably the most all-covering of these values. So it is just the idea that we are allowed to be who we are. We've already covered legal representation, respect for others, and the ability to sort of govern for ourselves. Anyway, this is all about us as individuals, that we are allowed to be who we are.
We're allowed to say things that offend, but we're not allowed to be offensive. So we're allowed to have our own thoughts, but we're not allowed to implement them in a way that impacts on other people. And that's really important. Yeah, so one of the things that is really good in democracy and with individual liberty is that you can be you. But with all rights comes responsibilities. So if you want to offend, be prepared that people will challenge that. You can be racist and I will challenge that. You can be fascist and I will challenge that, and as will the law. Yes. So our individual liberty does not come without responsibility. But all the ITY words at the end, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. I think freedom of speech is vital, but there are certain lines that you cross and you will be legally dealt with, and that is absolutely fine. For example, racial hatred. If you are trying to spread racial hatred, then there may well be more than just individuals disagreeing with you. You may find yourself in legal trouble, and that's good.
Absolutely. This is a really good question. What's fascism?
That is a good question.
What's fascism? I'm going to look up the technical definition before I explain it in my words, because I think that's useful. So, fascism is a form of far-right, authoritarian, characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimation of society and of the economy. So what fascism means in simple terms is a form of government in which most of the country's power is held by one leader. Fascist governments are usually totalitarian. Can't even say the word on a Saturday. Totalitarian and authoritarian and one-party states. But people can be like that, can't they? So when we talk about fascism, we're talking about right-wing behaviour, yeah, and an inability to shift.
Yes, right-wing behaviour.
Is it like communism? No.
Ah.
It's probably at the other end of the spectrum. So you've got communism at one end, fascism at the other end. So what generally happens is that people begin with communist ideas where everybody is equal, and ends up with fascism because there then becomes one political person who leads. So communist has its own issue. Maybe one of the discussions we can have over the next couple of weeks is what are some of the words that are involved in politics. Maybe that would be really interesting, because for lots of our Chinese friends who study with us, there's a big learning in terms of how their state is done. During the learning around that, what repression happens. We all think we have freedom until we go to other countries and see what their freedom looks like.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, we broaden our perspective.
Yeah.
By looking outside of our own area.
So the important thing is to keep having conversations about the long words that you don't understand, to get involved in what's happening in your community. So within the UK, you'll have a local council, maybe you'll have a parish council, or maybe you'll have like a residents association, stuff that can help you learn more about your community and the rules, the democracy that happens within yours. Is the democracy that happens in your community the same as the law of the land? Are you able to be yourself? Do you feel safe? Do you experience a mutual respect from the people that you live around or live with? So, as Marion said, we've come up to the hour, and it's been really lovely sharing this conversation with you, Flying Fish, and others who have been listening on Facebook and YouTube.
Yes, thank you so much for being involved.
We're going to be back online about 1:30. Is that right, Marion?
Yes, 1:30. I will be doing a Twitch session where I'll be looking at some games that we can play to help us learn English.
So in 2 hours' time, we will be back online. We'll be doing some games to actually do some of the practicalities of English. Flying Fish, you can pretend that we're your teachers. So even though we're not in the real world, we can be there anyway. So the good thing about COVID is that everyone is connected now. So we're all each other's teachers. You are teaching us things, and hopefully in return, we can help you, which will be fantastic. If you've enjoyed the Conversation Cafe, don't forget that on a Wednesday, you can join us on Zoom. And that's where we don't show our faces on live stream, but we show our faces to each other. We share our cup of tea, coffee, glass of wine, orange squash, and we practice together our English. And if I'm lucky, I get to speak other languages or learn a bit more about what's happening across the world. Enjoy your morning, everybody. Have a nice breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever time it is in your part of the world. But please remember, in these COVID times, mask, keep washing your hands, and stay a safe distance away from each other.
Yes, stay safe, everybody.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
Bye for now.